Alright folks, welcome to another raid video. Just a really quick one. We've just had some more information, well, new information on the new Doom Tower bosses, which is pretty exciting. So this is actually coming in the next rotation, so that's going to be in like a week and a bit. And this is the new bosses, so we'll just go through them. There's two new bosses, and one of the bosses has like a couple of minions, so there's 4 characters to look at here, but this is the first of the new bosses. So this is Grythion. He's a griffin by the looks of it. He looks pretty badass. He's got an insane skill kit. Let's have a quick look through it right now. So this is Griffin Skill Kit. Yeah, it's pretty insane, guys, not gonna lie. So it's got an A1 here that attacks a single enemy, 100% chance of placing a fear debuff for 1 turn, so that's nothing too crazy for a boss. Then his A2 is a Rock Smash, 3 turn cooldown, transfers all debuffs from Gritheon to each enemy, then attacks all enemies, fills a turn meter for each debuff transferred. And then on this A3, which is also a 3 turn cooldown, removes all buffs from all enemies, then attacks all enemies. Buff removal can't be resisted, which is a bit of a pain, and damage increases by 10% for each buff removed, so kind of like a seer almost. So he's going to be removing all your buffs and transferring all debuffs from him on a 3 turn cooldown for each, which is pretty nuts. And the fact that it can't be resisted is a bit annoying, but it's going to make it quite tough. It says here, fills Gritheon turn meter, transfers all debuffs. I think that can still be resisted though, so it doesn't say anything about that. But here's where the craziness starts. So he's got a lot of stuff. Have a look at all this. So he's got a passive on his A4, attacks an enemy whenever their HP drops by below 50%, and then the attack places a 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns. So he's just going to be zapping anyone that drops below 50%. Then his A5, this is the one that really gets me. Adds 1 Skybond buff to Gritheon at the start of each turn. Adds 1 Skybond buff to Gritheon whenever an enemy's HP drops below 50%. Each bond buff increases his attack, his crit rate, crit damage, speed. Ignores shield block damage unkillable when Gritheon has 10 or more. Will ignore shield block damage unkillable when Gritheon has 10 or more Skybond buffs on him. Can stack up to 20. They cannot be blocked or removed. So once they're on him, that's him. He's got them, and he's got more attack, more crit rate, more speed, more crit damage. Eventually he's going to be ignoring all your stuff and you can't remove them. That's going to be an issue. That's going to be a big issue. It's fair wind as well. He's got more. This is not just the end of it. Whenever Gritheon's turn meter is decreased, the turn meter of all enemies will be decreased the same amount. Places a stun debuff on 1 turn, when on enemies with fully depleted turn meters. Whenever an enemy's turn meter is filled, it fills at the same amount. So if you decrease his turn meter, you decrease your own turn meter, and you'll stun yourself if it goes to 0. And whenever you increase your turn meter, he's going to do exactly the same. He's going to copy every single one. So that's just crazy, yeah. You can't put debuffs on him because he's going to throw them at you. Well, in fact, I'll go through all this in a sec. There's more. There's the usual immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, block cooldown skills, fear, true fear, HP, exchanging effects, all that stuff. Decreases damage taken by poison by 90%. Okay, there you go. So that's your Zavia type things out the window again. I think this is going to be true for all the bosses from now on. No N minimax HP stuff anymore. It's just 10% is the most it can do. So it's still a decent amount, but that's as much as you'll do. All turn meter reduction effects are decreased by 50% as well. So let's get this right. So we've got a boss here that is going to transfer all the debuffs he gets back onto us. Then he's going to remove all your buffs as well, and it can't be resisted. And he increases his damage for each buff that's removed. So basically, you can't really put debuffs on him. You can't put buffs on yourself. You can't decrease his turn meter because you're going to decrease your own turn meter, and it's still a 50% reduction effect against it as well. He's immune to all the usual kind of stuff. You can't fill your own turn meters because you're just going to fill his turn meter too. It's a really interesting boss, this, guys. I'm quite excited to try and get in. And also, whenever you drop below 50% HP, bad things happen. You know, he's putting a buff on every single turn, so you don't want to increase your turn meter too much because you don't want too many of these buffs on. I guess I'm hoping he's going to be pretty weak until he starts getting these buffs. Surely he will, because otherwise this guy's going to be unkillable. But yeah, if you let guys drop below 50%, I mean, there's nothing about healing in here, so I mean, looking at all this, I think healing is going to be quite important by the looks of it, because you don't want your HP to drop below 50%. You don't really want to decrease turn meters too much. So maybe it's just about using enemy max HP champions to do the 10%. So that's just 10 hits and a bunch of healing, and just try and kind of grind it out before he gets to 10 or more buffs. I think that's going to be the only way to do this by the looks of it just now, but it's still early days. But yeah, really, really cool boss. He doesn't have any minions, so that is just him. That's all that boss encounter. We haven't actually had any information on the artifacts yet, which is a bit of a shame. I really hope it's a really decent artifact, because Doom Tower is actually quite good content. I quite enjoy it. I know a lot of people don't play it. It never really gets much credit, but I do enjoy it. I think the rewards are actually pretty decent from it as well. The only issue is, I think the end game rewards are the artifacts from it, and it is supposed to be the toughest content in the game, and the rewards just aren't worth it. Swift Parry is definitely the most sought after set from the Forge. Perception gear is good, but again, you're getting both of those not from the Doom Tower. All the Doom Tower stuff is, I think the best one is the Untouchable one. That's the immunity version one, and it's effectively the same. I mean, it is a better piece of equipment, don't get me wrong, because you get the resistance as well, but it's so much easier to just grind for immunity gear in Fire Knight still, so people are still just doing that, I'm afraid, because the Scarab King's a bit of a nightmare to farm as well. Right, here's the next bad boy. It's Iragoth or something, Iragoth. He's a new kind of bone dragon type thing. He looks badass. Again, Raid always do well at this. Their character design's pretty awesome. So this guy has a couple of minions too. So here we have the Eternal Guard, who's one of his minions. And here we have the Eternal Priest, who's the other one of his minions. So let's go and have a look at all of the skill kit of these three. So here's the boss. It's a little bit less text than the other guy. A1, attacks all enemies, places block cooldown skills debuff for 1 turn. A2, attacks all enemies, inflicts bonus damage for every turn remaining on all enemy skills cooldowns. 20% damage for each turn of cooldown. Places a fear debuff on all enemies with no skills on cooldown. It's quite an interesting mechanic, this actually. I do quite like this. It's A3, attacks all enemies, puts all enemy skills on cooldown. Yeah, just straight up puts them all down. Fills his turn meter for every turn remaining on all enemy skills cooldowns. Yeah, that is pretty nuts. It doesn't say it can't be resisted though, so I'm guessing just try and get some crazy high resistance for this one is probably the way to do it. He's also got a passive, summons 3 minions at the start of the turn, 1 Eternal Priest and 2 Eternal Guards. Oh, I didn't realise there was 2 of them. Iragoth can have a maximum of 3 minions at any time. Places an Eternal Rage buff on Iragoth for 2 turns if only 1 minion is summoned or no minions are summoned by the skill. The buff cannot be removed or blocked. The buff basically makes him faster, ignores unkillable, block damage, shield, and 50% of the target's defense. So you're actually better having all of the minions up by the looks of it. I can't actually remember what the minions do right enough. A5. At the start of the turn, sacrifices a priest, resets the cooldown of his skills and grants an extra turn. If there are no priests on the team, sacrifices a guard and heals him by 15% of his max HP. This skill will be in a 4-turn cooldown at the start of battle and will activate and go on cooldown every 5 turns, even if there are no Eternal Priests or Eternal Guards on the team. Yeah, this guy looks pretty nuts as well. I have to admit, I really like the design of these bosses. They've got some pretty interesting mechanics. This one's been really well thought out. Otherworldly passive, immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, block cooldown skills, all this kind of stuff. Not immune to cooldown increasing effects, so that's definitely one to note. I think that's going to be one way to try and get around this guy. And obviously, damage from skills based on enemy max HP cannot exceed 10%. So it doesn't say anything about... Oh, wait a minute. Immune to poison. I was going to say it doesn't say anything about poison, but he's actually just immune to poison debuffs completely. So you cannot poison him. You cannot enemy max HP him. And all the usual stuff. He can't reduce his turn meter at all. He's actually immune to that, unlike the last guy. Yeah, these look like 2 solid bosses. Like, really tough. So just quickly, this is the Eternal Guard. So there's 2 of these summoned and 1 of the priests. So attacks an enemy, 60% decreased defense for 2 turns. Places provoke debuff for 1 turn on enemies under block cooldown skills. So yeah, you really want to be resisting those because that's going to be a nightmare. Decreases the damage taken by allies from AoE attacks by 75%. So this guy is going to be mitigating 75% of AoE damage, which is pretty crazy against the dragon and the priest as well, and the other guard. That's going to be an issue. And this is the priest here, so he's got an A1 that puts block cooldown skills, again synergizes pretty well, and his A2 resets the cooldown of all enemy skills when this champion is killed by an enemy. Right, again, this is a problem. So if you kill him, you're basically going to reset all your skills, then the dragon's going to do crazy stuff. But if you don't kill him, he's going to sacrifice him and then get insanely strong. And I don't know who's worse. Yeah, both these bosses look nuts. I guess we'll just have to see when you get into the game. It's always a bit different, but they both look really, really exciting. Super cool artwork on them. Let's have another look. I mean, yeah, this guy looks awesome. Definitely some sort of bone dragon type thing. And a pretty cool griffin to top it off. So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. It's good getting these early release information. Like I say, this is going to be coming in the next Doom Tower reset, which is pretty exciting. Don't have any information on the artifacts yet, and unfortunately, we don't have any information. Well, I haven't had anything on if they're going to change up the secret rooms and stuff. Now, I've heard of people that they aren't going to do that, unfortunately, so I might just have to bite the bullet and end up just leveling up some epic lizardmen because it's like the only secret room I can't do still. But yeah, that's all the information we have so far. So yeah, that's the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell button for notifications if you haven't already. And yeah, stay tuned. We've got a few more videos getting edited as we speak, so that'll be coming out in the next few days. Some pretty good ones as well. So that's it, guys. Hope you have a great day. Peace.